Hello and welcome back, and that's right, today I want to talk about the subject of surveillance once again and return to the subject of IP cameras. It seems to be a subject I talk about on the channel on and off maybe once every couple of weeks, but today I want to talk about the first of two D-Link cameras that I'm going to talk about here on NAS Compares for a while. Why am I talking about it? Well, because recently I've been doing a bunch of stuff with switches and bits and bobs like that that have involved D-Link, and I took a long look at their network hardware, their routers and their switches and stuff, because it was a very popular brand for that, and I didn't even know they did IP camera brands, IP camera versions within their brand. So today I want to take a good long look at two cameras, one indoors, one outdoors, for another video coming soon, and take a little look at what these cameras can do, what they can't do, and whether you can utilize them in your home or business environment successfully. Now, this one we're looking at today, it should be highlighted that they have got some of the worst naming strategy I've ever seen on their IP cameras. This is the D-Link DCS-8302LH. That's right, really catchy name. You're not going to hear me say that model number again in this video, by the way. I had to lift it letter by letter off my notes. Now, this is their 1080p 30 frames per second outdoor camera. It supports OnViv, which is great for those of you that are looking at getting a network attached storage device with a bunch of IP cameras, but it also has a few other different methods for recording footage on the fly. It's also got a bunch of other features and services such as person detection and compatibility with smart home that may make it the ideal camera for you. Arriving on the market for about 89 quid or about $90 to $99. It's not the cheapest camera, but it's by no means the most expensive camera on the market. And with that, you get a banging little mobile app, no desktop app unfortunately, and lots of utilities and ways in which you can interact with it. Now, the first part of this review is obviously going to be the unboxing. We're going to take a long look at it, look at the little features and the build quality. Then we're going to hop over to the mobile application, have a look at the software, see how easy it is to add the camera, and as well as go through some of the features and services that are available. And then finally, we're going to head back into the studio and summarize what we've seen here. We've got another video coming soon where we're going to use this and another D-Link camera on different NAS platforms to see how well it plays with their own surveillance software. But for now, let's unbox this bad boy. So again, the retail packaging is quite high street, isn't it? Unlike a lot of products that I've talked about here on the channel that have a tendency to be very e-shop and therefore you never see it until you've already bought it. This one definitely has a kind of off-the-shelf IT shop quality about it there. Again, lots of features and services, got a 2-year warranty included as well. Would have liked to have seen a bit longer, but I've really struggled outside of like enterprise access type cameras to find warranties longer than 2 years from any IP camera brand. So I'm not hugely surprised. I should highlight, I've already done some testing with this, so when you get it, it won't be slightly opened like this one. Inside with the accessories, you get information on that 2-year warranty that I've mentioned. You also get a weird little sticker, which I know this isn't rare. You walk past someone's house on the street and they have a big sticker outside that says this house is protected by, and then the name of security firm. It's just not impossible that they wouldn't have this outside to let potential burglars know to naff off. But I've always thought this is a tremendously 1970s thing to include with any product. Quick start installation guide, and by quick start installation guide I really do mean quick. It's a single sheet of paper there, but again, it's incredibly intuitive. And one thing I will highlight, and again, you'll see this later in the video, but when adding this camera with the mobile app, I've tried to tinker with a lot of IP cameras in the past using their own proprietary software, occasionally hitting the odd barrier or a brick wall or less straightforward installation. At no point in all of my testing did I have any difficulty adding this camera. It was seamless, and you'll see later on in the video, and anyone that's ever tried to use cheap IP cameras and try and hook them up on a 2.4 gigahertz frequency using your own Wi-Fi, syncing with the device, you'll know that it can be incredibly frustrating. This didn't have any of that, and you'll see it later on. Information on how to set up the cabling on this camera, and again, that's going to be important because as this is an outdoor camera, you've got to think about water ingress, any kind of dust ingress, that kind of stuff. It is IP rated quite highly, but it is an outdoor camera, and you can see the ways and means in which that's changed in the design later on. Again, lots of information there on LGPL source code utilization and stuff on there, very techy. Again, with our accessories, we've got a cable tie there. We've also got a cable extension for the power cable there. Lovely stuff. we've got the PSU for this device. Again, it doesn't use a USB power, but it does have an exceedingly long distance there, and again I think it's 5 meters or 3 meters per cable. Again, it should say so in the specifications or on screen. There's clips for UK, EU and US cable adapters, they're all included. You've got raw plugs there for attaching the camera into the wall, because this can of course be wall mounted. And of course we have the camera itself. Get that out of there. If we have a little look, we've got a big old lens there on the front as mentioned. This is a 1080p camera HD. It can go up to 30 frames per second. Also, this is both a wireless and wired camera if you so choose. So if you use the wireless frequency, it is restricted to the 2.4 gigahertz band, which again is fine as long as you're utilizing some kind of router in your home environment that has auto negotiation, or you're not using a fixed frequency for certain coverage areas. So do bear that in mind during setup, that this needs to communicate on 2.4 gigahertz there. Again, I mentioned AI support earlier on. It has software on chip inside, and that SoC allows person detection, motion detection, and a degree of sound detection as well. But again, this isn't like a GPU massive configurable smart camera there. That's still a little bit rudimentary, which you would have expected for this price tag. There's also the option of Geo Fencing inside, so within the camera view you can choose certain areas of coverage where you want alerts to happen, something I'll show you later on, hopefully in the software overview. And again, when it comes to nighttime, it has LEDs built in for up to 5 meters of night vision. So not enormous, but still pretty darn good there, and again weatherproof for outside. If we remove the back panel, we can see inside there we have an SD card slot. If I bring that slightly further away so the lighting in the studio doesn't conflict with the bright white camera, you've got an SD card slot there at the top, and underneath you've got your LAN connection. Trying to find the right lighting there. Now that LAN connection means that you can not only get that little Ethernet cable inside there to get that nice gigabit connection, but also you've got the power connector just above it there. And if you're using a PoE splitter and a PoE switch, that is sufficient to power this device. But again, bear in mind, you're going to have to factor distance in for an outdoor camera like this. Once you've funneled that connector inside for the power, it goes into the base, and then there's a rubberized washer there that sinks there into the slot, and then you can pop the back of that camera just on there, and boom, now your camera is completely protected on that power inlet, and it's a sealed unit there. Very, very handy. And again, if you're going to be utilizing this upside down or up, it's going to work for you, and that water ingress is going to be hugely limited there. Now, you may see underneath a speaker there. If I once again bring that very close to camera, you should be able to make out the little speaker, as it has audio in and out, so you can trigger it from the app, something I'll hopefully show you later on as well as an alarm system you can trigger at the touch of a button as needed. So again, you'll be able to hear any potential intruders, but also speak out to them and raise an alarm remotely. Now, when it comes to the connection itself, it's WPA3 encryption certified. So again, not only does that mean that recordings can't be intercepted midway because they are encrypted, but on top of that, when you are utilizing it with smart home devices like Alexa, like Google Home, there's not going to be any kind of gap there in the transition of that data that you need to be concerned with. You know, the picture quality itself, pretty darn good, as you will see in a moment, and the setup of the camera, pretty straightforward. However, we should address the elephant in the room, which is, where are your recordings going? When you're using a camera like this, you're going to have concerns about, one, where the recordings are going, and two, how safe are those recordings in the event of someone just coming along and stealing or smashing the camera upon entry. It's very, very important to know that. Now, this camera has 3 means of recording built in. I've touched on a couple of them, but it's worth touching on them again. First and foremost, there is an SD card slot there that supports up to a 256 gigabyte SD card slot in there, which again, you're talking days, weeks of recording easily, and the software does have a recycle retention policy built in there. But again, of course, if you're saving all that on an SD card that's connected inside the system, someone steals it, game over, right? You can have multiple recording patterns, but bear in mind it's not as seamless as edge recording in the enterprise sense of two systems of recording at once. There is an offload there. Now, if you use a network attached storage device like a Synology or QNAP device, then you end up with a system where as recordings are happening on the camera, they are batched over to the system. They are being live fed into their respective surveillance platforms, but bear in mind, if someone comes along, smashes the camera, you do run the risk of losing some of that recorded footage there. So it's all going to depend on what your kind of closing policy is on those files, 5 minutes, 30 minutes only notifications or 24/7 recording. The third option is to use the My D-Link cloud recording service, and again, I'll touch on it a little bit later. But with that, you can record your footage directly from the camera to the cloud via your Wi-Fi connection. Now, they've got prices on there, but I would say the standard price tag there is about £5. There is a lesser subscription there that's just too darn limited. But for £5 a month, or sorry, £5 a month, you can record that footage to their cloud and access it while still getting all the notifications there, which will lessen the capture rate if someone comes along and smashes the camera, of course, but not a huge difference more to using the NAS. One thing I will say with that £5 subscription service, because obviously they have to maintain the cloud, a number of you may not be in love with the idea of your recordings and a camera in your home remote connecting with a server that isn't in-house. I get that. Those of you thinking about the money might be pleased to hear that you can get the first year of that service for free when you buy the product. You have to get a registered product, but after that you can get that service for a year free if you choose to. Just bear in mind again that after that you are going to get overly reliant on that service and be prepared to pay later. That's the way these free trials work. Always a taste, always a taste. But for now, let's make our way into my test area there, get the camera set up and have a little bit of fun seeing how easy it is to connect with the camera and some of the services that are available to be used with it. Let's hop over. So it has to be said that the software, when you are utilising these D-Link cameras with a mobile, in this case an Android, is actually quite nice. I've done this setup here on screen, and again I've got the cameras just outside of shot, so I'm going to have to nip back and forth during this process, but again this is what you're going to see on screen. I just wanted to show you just how straightforward it is to add cameras here. Now again, you do need to register an account with them, something that I wasn't hugely in love with. I know a number of you are looking at cameras like this to be used with a network attached storage device, and we will cover that in another video, but for now I'm just going to show you how easy it is. So again, I'll try and look at screen. We open up the My D-Link app. I've already registered an account, it didn't cost anything, and as you can see on screen, not only is it inviting me to add a device, but it has found our camera immediately there on the local area network. Because this camera has a LAN connection, I was able to patch it directly in to my router here in the office. However, it does have Wi-Fi capabilities, so you're not necessarily kind of locked in on doing it that way. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and click Add Device, and it's asking me to scan a code. So if I just move slightly out of shot, and again, there's that screen that you're seeing. And I'm back on camera, and as you can see, it's now asking me how I'd like to add the device. Do I want to add the cable, add the camera via an Ethernet cable, or add it via the Ethernet? So again, let's say I want to go with Wi-Fi, and I want to take advantage of the office Wi-Fi that I have running around here in this room right now. So it's going to go ahead and do the connecting. While it does that, I'm going to have myself a sneaky coffee, and that's how quick it is. I haven't even had a chance to have me a coffee. As you can see, it's found the camera. I'm going to connect it to that Wi-Fi network, and now it will start authenticating that camera. It shouldn't take too long. I did try this with a different camera for another review very recently from D-Link. It was very quick in how quickly it did it. But for now, we're just adding this camera, and this should log us in to the user interface of the My D-Link app, and then I can show you some of the software this arrived with. Once again, this is an ONVIF, an ONVIF camera there. Again, just carrying on, we can give the camera a name. So again, we're going to call this one Studio, spelt correctly. And then from there, click Next. it's now saying the camera has now been installed and added, and it's now going to invite me to set up some of the security settings. How we want it to give notifications about when different motion detection is placed, and different D-Link cameras are obviously going to have different settings built into them, but it's still nice to have that level of kind of control built into what is ostensibly a very affordable camera in the grand scheme of things. As you can see, there's automation rules for person detection there, and I'm going to go ahead and set them up pretty much as the default. It's inviting me through how I want the camera set up, and there's different settings. If you want the camera to be set up in a home, or when you're maybe away on holiday, or you want a kind of day, night, sleep, awake cycle there, I'm going to go ahead with the default, the home settings there. And it's going to ask you for the premium thing. Again, that's up to you. But me personally, I'd rather use an SD card and a NAS, have a kind of dual platform recording there for security purposes. And I think it's a lot more affordable than a lot of subscription services. But again, the offer's there. And that's it really. Now we are into the applications. You can see there on my phone, and of course they're on screen. So again, we can go straight away into that camera feed if we choose. And there we go. You've got the overview there of the office. Let's see what the delay's like. It is pretty good. It is obviously on the LAN, so there's not going to be too much of a delay there. If we make our way into the camera, we can have a little look at some of the settings that are available to us there. So again, we don't have an SD card installed in this camera because I plan on using it with a NAS. But for now, we can go ahead and take a snapshot that will be locally saved to your device. As you can see, that screen might have gone black there because some notifications on Android will black the screen so you can't see them. As you can see, we can do two-way audio if we choose, like so. Testing. And we heard it there in the background, almost no delay there. Again, we can go ahead and get the light turned on. And we have the alarm, so we can turn that off. And on top of that, at the bottom, we can change the stream quality on this camera to flick between 720 and 1080p there, nice and easy for us. Now, again, we can do a recording option there, you can see just underneath the camera, but do bear in mind that, again, you're going to need a target source, whether that is their subscription service, whether that's going to be the SD card, or if you're going to be using one of a million NAS that are just behind me now. I don't know why I'm talking to you there. I could just as easy talk to you up there on the camera and wave at you again. But there you go. Now, as mentioned, on the top right of the screen, you can see there that there is the SD card option there in the middle, but I don't have an SD card installed. Likewise, there is if you want to use the cloud recording that we talked about earlier there. On top of that, if you go into the device settings, we've got lots of stuff we can play with here. Again, the privacy mode will disable the camera screen unless you go into it. Motion detection can be enabled, as well as a zone. So if we do a zone here, and we do that area just there in front of the camera, we can go ahead, have that as a nice high area of sensitivity, will come out of it there, and now that area just in front of my laptop screen is going to be a high area of sensitivity. So again, I can move my hand around that area as I'm doing there, and hopefully that should trigger some kind of alert for us, which we'll try later on. So again, we've got the microphone, we've got that night vision we can flick to. As you can see, it is now spotted that motion detection. So again, the motion detection is certainly doing its job on this little wee camera. But again, if we come out of it there, we've got lots of screen stuff there where we can change the picture quality and the frame rate of the camera quite easily. And again, you can change how and who gets notifications on individual cameras if you've got a multi-person environment that you're going to need for security. You can change the Wi-Fi settings. Again, I'm not going to say that it's going to blow you away. It's by no means like heavily featured, but it is very clearly shown on screen there, and it's kind of very easy to follow. It's not going to be very difficult to understand what you're doing with this camera. And again, remember the app was free. If we come back out of it there, we make our way back into the main interface. And again, we can add multiple cameras very easily there, as well as if we have different cycled modes, such as we wanted to enable an away mode. So say, for example, we're going to be away for a few days, we can create a profile where this camera will then switch into its away mode, which is presumably a 24/7 high motion detection area, whereas sleep mode would be the cameras only on during certain times of day when people are asleep, as you can see. So again, it's nice to have a very quick way to flick between all of those modes there from directly within the system. Sorry about the notification bell there. But again, as you can see, you go to the events area where it will show different areas of detection, and as you can see, motion has been detected, a person has been detected on this camera, and ultimately I'm quite pleased with what we're seeing here. Now, with more storage inside this camera, you would have more stuff available to you, but still nonetheless, for this camera's price point and this software being free and inclusive, and the fact that this camera is supported by most network attached storage devices such as Synology or QNAP, and we have done a surveillance test already for Synology Surveillance Station 9, I'm really impressed with what we're seeing here. But for now, let's bring the camera back here onto the desk and record the end of this video where I give you my conclusions and the verdict. Well, what do we think? Well, overall, I like it. It does exactly what it says it does. It doesn't overpromise in any way. And although the software didn't exactly blow me away, it was very easy to set up. You've got that free trial for a year thrown in if you want it of the cloud services. And there are multiple ways in which you can back up your recordings to the camera. Also, those great extension cables that came with it mean, a lot of the time when you buy cheap cameras online, for outdoor use, they very rarely include extension cables or really the areas of coverage or limiting ingress that you might hope for. And a lot of the time, those cheaper cameras where you're cutting corners day one, you end up paying for it in accessories or just long term anyway. So the price tag of 90 to 100, depending on where you are in the world and the currency, isn't the end of the world. And although it's on a 4K camera, I think at this point, at this price tag, I think you're getting a pretty good sweet deal for this kind of camera here. Its support on network attached storage seems to be very straightforward, but I will say that when we were connecting with the camera via the mobile app, you couldn't have it on both the NAS and D-Link's own services. You had to choose one or the other. The camera didn't seem to enjoy, or to be frank, work at all when trying to use both systems simultaneously there. So again, you are going to have to pick your lanes on that one. But overall, I quite like the camera. I would recommend it, and although it does feel a little bit plasticky, I think that's okay for this price tag. I wouldn't expect high industrial metal design at this price point. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, click chuck me a like. It helps me understand what I'm doing right and wrong. Click subscribe to learn more as we explore surveillance more and more in 2022. And of course, if you want to learn more or need advice on the right cameras or surveillance for your home or business setup, use the free advice section below over on NAS Compares. It is genuinely free, manned by two humans, me and Eddie, and we answer as many questions as we can. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.